Welcome to Let's Make a Game Platformer, episode 32. In last episode, I have extracted the shape rendering for models out of the model renderer so that I can now provide different kind of models. And this hasn't changed visually the game at all, hasn't added any new features, but allows me to add some stuff further on down the line. And today, I would like to start off by working a bit on the scale here. So at the moment, if you remember the model shape component, which defines the model that is displayed. For example, let's say in here we have the models star. It specifies here that it's the depth of it is 0 because we want to have like a flat kind of star. It's using the cube model, cube shape. However, it's completely flattened in the Z axis. So this is very bad. So the reason why it's bad at the moment, for example, the model door has built in exactly this is the way it is, and this is the only way we can. If you wanted to have a different one with different multipliers, for example, this is especially important for the platforms. Where's the platform? Here. We cannot have platforms of different width, different other dimensions. So this is very inconvenient, and I'd like to change it. So the way I want to change it is that at the moment we have model rotate component, and similarly I'd like to add model scale component here. Model scale component, which will of course extend to component, and this component will allow me to define the scale of the object, the way it should be scaled, whether it should be smaller, larger, or whatever, or flattened, and so on. So that's why I'll be able to, first of all, without modifying the models themselves, these files, I'll be able to, on a per entity base, modify them the way I had them modified. For example, in the level here that I have signal consumer, I'll be able to modify, specifying that I'll be modifying the scale. And for example, the platform or the star or something should be 3 times as large, or should be completely flat, or whatever else I want to do. At the moment, this does not modify the model, because if you take a look at the pressure plate here, it's referencing the model prefab here by name, and so we have to create a separate, this one we have to create a separate one for each kind of thing. But once I extracted these data, I can modify them on the per entity or per prefab here level, rather than having them baked in the shape itself. Okay, so let me start off by adding the scale component. Let's now add getters and setters. Scale x, void set scale x, and the same for y and z. Y, and Z. Okay, now I'll modify the model shape component. It no longer contains this information. And in the model renderer, similarly as I did for the model rotate, I do entity ref get component model scale. If scale is not null, then scale vec set scale get scale x, scale get scale y, and scale get scale z. Another thing I can do is in the model scale component, add here default values. So by default, the scale will be 1. The same for y and z. So if this value were not set, this is the default that they will they will have. Okay, so now we have this part. Now we have to find where the model shape was used. Okay, and we can no longer specify it. So instead we will have multiplier of 1, or we can completely remove it because it's the default value. If we take a look at the output shape to vertex, this is the default values. Okay, so by default, these models that are coming from here are the size that the shape defines, which probably going to be 1 in every direction. So now I have to modify all of them. Okay, maybe not start off with. Now I have to make sure that all the entities that were using this feature, so the bug, project, and so on, the values now are in a model scale. Okay, so we'll have here model scale component, and for bug the values were scale x. So defaults are 1, so I can skip the scale x, y, and just provide the scale z being 0. And let me copy this part, maybe the whole thing, so I can remove the bug already. Now bug projectile, it's 0505x. So I'll have here so scale x 05, scale y 05, and z is 0. So now I can have a bug firing a projectile which is larger or smaller and so on. So I don't have to provide different prefabs for it here. I can just modify it in the level. Okay, and now we have, so I can remove it here. Now bug with gun is 0 as well. It's going to be the same as in here. I can remove it here. Model door is 02209. Model scale component. So we'll have scale x, scale y, scale z. Remove it from the door. We also have a signal door that is going to be using the same data, the same multipliers. Okay, now we have class platform 2051. I don't have to specify 1 because that's the default. Scale x and scale y. And I can remove it. Okay, now player is just z direction, is flat. Player is over here. Model scale component. Scale z is 0, everything is 1, everything else. Then we have pressure plate 1011. Ones can be skipped. Scale 1 y. We have star This is flattened on 0. Scale Z is 0. Stone platform 2051. It's going to be the same as grass platform. I could even go ahead, even overwrite, just have one platform with different models and for different collide size, but just no point in removing that now. And the torch we have flattened again. So model scale component and scale Z is 0. Okay, so let me run it and see if everything's still working the way it should. Okay, player has disappeared. Let me make sure that's not the problem with the default. Okay, that's not the problem. Let me debug real quick. Okay, so the problem was that apparently either libgdx or OpenGL, though I probably think it's libgdx, doesn't like really objects that have scale of 0. So rather than having scale of 0 for all the flat objects like player, star, and so on, they have to have at least a minimal size in every direction. So I've assigned here 0.1 to all of those that have this, like star and so on. And I also had to modify the model shape rendering system to move the scale setting to after the translate is applied, the one that is due to the finding the center of the object, for example, a star around which it revolves here using the rotation. So otherwise, if I didn't, then the translation here, for example, the door has to be moved half a block. It was affected by the scale of the door, so the thickness of the door was affecting how it was moved. If we switch the order of these two method calls, everything is fine. Okay, so let me run through the game quickly. Everything looks fine. Door works fine. Okay, and this is where I'd like to stop for a second. As you can see, the platform here is a width of 2, and the texture here is stretched in this direction. That's because the same texture that normally covers one block is covering the width of 2 blocks. So this is the next thing I'd like to work on, to be able to specify custom models for specific objects. And to do that, I'd like to introduce a new system and new component into rendering model. Maybe let me add here a package shape, where I move the shape associated stuff. This is this guy and this guy. And in here, I'll add multi-shape. Maybe just multi-shape package. And in here, model multi-shape component. Extends component. and it will be same as here. Actually, no. It will specify. Let me quickly render its shape is also here. So this is the component I want to basically duplicate, but allow to specify how many of those shapes they're gonna be and how they're gonna be arranged. So let me rename this to rendered multi-shape component. I'll add these here. And so there'll be another getter here, get shape count, and maybe float get shape advance x, advance y, and advance z. What I mean by advance x and advance y and advance z, that is, so let's say I'll specify that I want to have 3 blocks of stone, and the way I want to them arranged is have 1 more block of stone at the original position, so the 0, 0 that is defined by the object itself and the location component of it. Then I want to have move the origin by, for example, 1 in the x direction and 0 in the y and z. This is the advance. And then I want to add another 1 stone there, then move once again by 1, 0, 0 vector, and then place a third one. So in here, I'll copy the model shape rendering system and add multi-shape rendering system here. And this is the component I want to have. No, not this model shape component. So this is fine. Here, rendered multi-shape component. And when I create it, so I want to have the key to be the prefab. So for example, block or grass or whatever other block I want to have. Like for example, in here we had the glass platform specifying model glass platform, and this has shape cube and so on. So this is shape, the model itself, and then let me think for a second. Yes, I want to have the key will be model prefab followed by colon and the model render get shape count followed by colon model render get advance x render get shape advance y and model render get shape advance c. Okay, so rendered shape here as well. Okay, so this is gonna be method that gets the key. Get model key. So if models contains the key get key. Okay. If it doesn't contain key, then you get prefab name. Okay, so now in here I have to do a advance x equals 0, advance y equals 0, advance c equals 0, and then in here for int ei equals 0 to model render get shape count. So this is how many of those specific blocks I want to add, and I want to place them at advance x, advance y, and advance z position. And finally, I want to increment these by model render get shape advance x, y, and z respectively. X, Y, Z. Okay, so when I generate the model, I'll not just create one shape, not just add one shape to the vertex or a vertex, but as many shapes as is defined, and their position gonna be for each one incremented by the specified values here. Okay, let me think. Do I have to do anything more here? Render shape component. No, I just have to modify the class platform rather than using rendered shape component to use rendered multiple. So it's multi shape component. And scale is going to be 1. We don't want to scale it in the x direction anymore because this is going to define how big it's going to be. And shape count, shape x, shape advance x. Okay, so shape count, which says how many blocks should be in this one object. And that object we want to have 2 blocks. And the last one is shape advance x, because we have to specify that after you place a block, move 1 block to the right to add more blocks. So it's going to be 1. Everything else is going to be 0. Yes. Collision object is going to be fine. Translate platform component. Okay, so the same has to be applied to the stone platform here. Also scale 1. And let's run it now. Let me quickly get to the lever where we have the platform to see if it now is rendering properly. So it's not being stretched anymore. Okay, the platform is no longer stretched. It's using grass texture because I here modified the stone platform to use stone. Let me fix it and run again. Okay, there's an error. Model grass stone is not the correct. It's stone platform. Stone platform. Okay, so now as you can see, the texture is no longer stretched over the blocks. And what is more important, in here in the level editor, or the level where we specify the platform, I can override the width of it by providing the stuff I want to override, which is stone platform, multi-shape, shape count. And a shape count, I can do 3. We also have to modify all the other stuff there. Sorry, here. So collision obstacle to 3 and platform component to 3. I think it's width 3 and platform component 3 width 3. And distance x is going to be 1 less because the platform is wider now. So without modifying the prefabs here, I can just specify and that the shape of the platform in here, overriding it. I don't have to touch the model, I don't have to touch the objects. I can just now have everything defined in the level itself. And furthermore, I can even add them on the fly. For example, grow the platform or shrink it and so on. Okay, now you can see the platform is 3 blocks wide. The texture is not stretched. And it's looking pretty good. Okay, that's it for this episode. Make sure to like it and subscribe to my channel. You can also follow me on Twitter, link in the description. Thanks for watching. Bye.